I'd been working construction for 7 years when Marcus walked onto the site that Monday morning. The foreman introduced him as our new supervisor, and I remember thinking he looked too clean, too polished for someone about to oversee a crew of guys who spent their days covered in drywall dust and concrete mix. He wore his hard hat like it was brand new, which it probably was, and his work boots didn't have a single scuff mark. But what really caught my attention were his eyes. Dark brown, almost black. And when they landed on me during introductions, something in my chest tightened in a way I wasn't ready to examine. "Jake, right?" he said, extending his hand. His grip was firm, confident. "I'm Marcus. Listen, I know you've been here longer than anyone else on this crew. Would you mind showing me the ropes? I want to make sure I understand how you guys operate before I start making any decisions." I nodded, trying to ignore how his hand lingered in mine just a fraction of a second longer than necessary. "Sure thing. We're working on the 3rd floor today, finishing up the framing." That first week, Marcus shadowed me everywhere. At first, I figured he was just being thorough, learning the job from the ground up like any good supervisor should. But something didn't add up. When I showed him how to read the blueprints, he already knew the notation system. When I explained our safety protocols, he could recite them before I finished. One afternoon, I watched him pick up a nail gun and handle it with the ease of someone who'd been using one for years, not days. "You've done this before," I said, not quite a question. He looked up at me, and for just a moment, something vulnerable flashed across his face. Yeah, I have." "So why are you pretending you haven't?" Marcus set down the nail gun and wiped his hands on his jeans. We were alone in the space that would eventually become someone's living room, golden afternoon light streaming through the unfinished windows. "Can I be honest with you?" "I'd appreciate that. I transferred here from a site across town. I've been doing this for almost 10 years. But when I saw your crew, He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. "I wanted an excuse to spend time around you, to get to know you without it being weird." My heart was hammering so hard I was sure he could hear it. That's either really flattering or really creepy, and I haven't decided which yet. He laughed, and the sound did something to me. "Fair enough. Look, if I've made you uncomfortable, I can back off. There's something about you, Jake. The way you work, the way you treat the other guys on the crew. You're kind without making a big deal about it. You're competent without being arrogant. And He trailed off, meeting my eyes. I wanted to know if the person matched the impression. I should have been angry. I should have felt manipulated. Instead, all I felt was a strange mixture of fear and exhilaration. And does he match the impression? He exceeds it. We stood there in that unfinished room, dust motes dancing in the air between us, and I realized this was one of those moments that would change everything. I could shut this down, keep things professional, pretend this conversation never happened. Or I could be honest about the fact that I'd been thinking about him every night since he arrived, that I'd started taking extra care with my appearance in the mornings, that I'd been hoping for exactly this kind of confession, even though I'd never admitted it to myself. "I'm not good at this," I said finally, "at being vulnerable, at letting people in. I noticed you keep everyone at arm's length, friendly but distant. My ex, I stopped, surprised I was even bringing this up. He used to say I was emotionally unavailable, that I treated relationships like construction projects, everything measured and planned and controlled." Marcus took a step closer. "And was he right?" "Probably. Yeah, I know I do that. It's safer that way." "Safer than what?" "Than feeling too much, than getting hurt when it falls apart." He was close enough now that I could smell his cologne mixed with sawdust and sweat. "What if it doesn't fall apart?" "Everything falls apart eventually. That's just physics." "Jake." The way he said my name made my breath catch. "I'm not asking for forever. I'm just asking for a chance. Coffee, dinner, a conversation that doesn't involve lumber measurements." I wanted to say yes. God, I wanted to say yes so badly it physically hurt. But 7 years of keeping myself locked down, of not letting anyone get close enough to matter, that kind of armor doesn't come off easily. "I need time to think about it." Something like disappointment crossed his face, but he nodded. "Okay, I can respect that." The rest of that week was torture. Marcus stopped shadowing me, started actually doing his job as foreman, and I missed him. Missed his questions, his presence, the way he listened when I talked. I caught him watching me sometimes, and the look in his eyes was patient but hopeful, like he was waiting for me to figure something out. Friday afternoon, the crew was packing up early. Someone's birthday, and we were all heading to the bar down the street. I was loading tools into my truck when Marcus appeared beside me. "You coming tonight?" he asked. Wasn't planning on it. "The guys would like it if you did. You're kind of the heart of this crew, even if you don't realize it." I slammed the toolbox shut harder than necessary. "Is that what you think? That I don't realize my own value? I think you're so busy protecting yourself that you don't let yourself realize a lot of things. And you've known me for what, 2 weeks? You think you've got me all figured out?" He didn't rise to my anger. Instead, his voice went soft. "I think you're scared. I think something hurt you badly enough that you decided it was easier to be alone. And I think you're so used to being the strong one, the reliable one, that you've forgotten how to let someone take care of you for a change." I wanted to argue, to tell him he was wrong, but my throat had closed up and my eyes were burning, and I realized with horror that I was about to cry in front of my foreman in the construction site parking lot. "I have to go." "Jake, wait." But I was already in my truck, engine roaring to life, pulling out before he could say anything else that might crack me open completely. I drove for an hour, no destination, just moving. Eventually, I ended up at the lake where my dad used to take me fishing when I was a kid. I sat on the hood of my truck watching the sunset paint the water gold and red, and I let myself think about all the things I'd been avoiding. My ex hadn't been wrong. I did keep people at a distance. After he left, after he told me that loving me was like loving a brick wall, I'd decided it was easier to just not try. Work was simple. Construction made sense. You followed the plans, you did the work, you built something solid. No mess, no confusion, no vulnerability. But Marcus had seen through all of that in a matter of days. He'd seen something in me worth pursuing, worth the risk of rejection. And instead of appreciating that, instead of being brave enough to meet him halfway, I'd run. My phone buzzed. A text from Tommy, one of the crew. "Where are you, man? Everyone's asking about you." I stared at that message for a long time. Then, I started the truck. The bar was crowded and loud when I walked in. I spotted our crew in the back corner, Marcus among them, laughing at something Danny was saying. He looked relaxed, happy, and I realized I wanted to be the one making him laugh like that. I made my way through the crowd, heart pounding. When Marcus saw me, his whole face lit up, and that was all the confirmation I needed. "Hey," I said, sliding into the seat next to him. "Sorry I'm late." "You came." He said it like I'd given him a gift. "Yeah, well, someone told me I need to stop being so scared all the time." We stayed until closing, talking and laughing with the crew, but there was this current running between us, this awareness of each other. Every time his arm brushed mine, every time our eyes met, it felt like a promise. When the bar finally kicked us out, Marcus walked me to my truck. The parking lot was nearly empty, streetlights casting long shadows. "I'm sorry," I said before I could lose my nerve. "About this week, about running away." "You don't have to apologize." "Yes, I do. You were honest with me, and I panicked. That wasn't fair to you." He leaned against my truck, looking up at the stars. "Can I ask you something?" "Anything." "What are you really afraid of?" "Because I don't think it's getting hurt. I think you've made peace with that possibility." I thought about it, really thought about it. I'm afraid of being too much, of needing too much. My ex, he made me feel like my needs were a burden, like wanting closeness, wanting intimacy, wanting someone to actually see me that was asking for too much. So I just stopped asking. Marcus turned to face me fully. "Jake, you're not too much. You're not a burden. And anyone who made you feel that way was an idiot who didn't deserve you. You don't know that. You barely know me. I know enough. I know you stayed late last Tuesday to help Danny figure out that tricky corner joint, even though it wasn't your responsibility. I know you always make sure the new guys feel included. I know you double-check everyone's safety gear without making them feel incompetent. I know you're careful and thoughtful and kind. And yeah, maybe you're a little guarded, but that just means when you do let someone in, it means something." I was crying now, actually crying, and I didn't even care. I want to let you in. I'm just not sure I remember how. Then we'll figure it out together. No pressure, no expectations. Just, let's see what happens. Can you do that?" I nodded, not trusting my voice. Marcus reached out and wiped a tear from my cheek, his touch gentle. "Can I kiss you?" "Please." It was soft at first, tentative, both of us learning the shape of this new thing between us. But then his hand slid into my hair and I pulled him closer, and it deepened into something that felt like coming home and starting an adventure at the same time. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing hard. "So," Marcus said, his forehead resting against mine. "Coffee tomorrow?" Yeah, I'd like that." "And Jake? You don't have to have it all figured out. We'll take it one day at a time, just like building something, one piece at a time until it's solid." I laughed because, of course, he'd use a construction metaphor. "Did you just compare our potential relationship to a building project?" "Is it working?" Yeah, it kind of is." We stood there in that parking lot for another 20 minutes, just talking. And it felt easy in a way nothing had felt easy in years. When I finally drove home, I couldn't stop smiling. That was 6 months ago. We did take it slow, one day at a time, one piece at a time. Marcus was patient with my walls, and I learned to be honest about my fears. It wasn't always easy. I still sometimes retreated when things got too intense, and he still sometimes pushed harder than I was ready for. But we talked about it. We worked through it. Last week, Marcus asked me to move in with him. We were at the site, ironically, finishing up the project where we'd first met. Standing in that same unfinished living room, now fully framed and drywalled and painted. "Remember this room?" he asked. "How could I forget? This is where you confessed to fake training just to spend time with me. Best decision I ever made. So here's my question. Want to make some new memories? In a place that's actually finished?" I looked around at the space we'd built, at how it had transformed from empty potential into something real and solid. "Kind of like us." "Yeah," I said, pulling him close. "Yeah, I really do."